We'll have to move on. Senator Boisvenu.
Monsieur Mayrand, bonjour.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayrand. Thank you for your presentation. I have two questions for you with respect to your brief. On page 12, where you say that the current commissioner and his predecessor both indicated that they have to have direct access. They fear that the transfer of the commissioner's office to the public prosecutor would limit the capacity for him to do his work. But when I read your brief, it doesn't seem to me that there is a certainty of this happening. Do you have any other arguments that might shore up your position, other arguments to convince us, or is it just something that is a concern? You know, nobody likes change. We fear change. But can you reinforce this? Well, listen, there's going to be a separation of the administration of inquiries. Presently, there is no method of communication between the two entities for the future. That means that the elections commissioner would be in the same position as any other complainant. And say a government agency, therefore, would be subject to other regulatory requirements of other government agencies, which limits the exchange of information between governmental agencies. I think that this is a gap in the thinking. I should be obliged if the commissioner asks me to provide information to do so. I should be obliged to see that he has the tools that he needs to conduct his investigations. Yeah, but we're talking hypotheses now, are we not? Does that mean then, is this the reason why your brief did not include a proposal that would flesh this out? It's in the tables that I gave you. So this is a concern. You fear that this could lead to difficulty. No, I apologize. It is covered in the table itself with respect to my objections. With respect to the percentage of vote, on page 4 of your brief, you dealt with your mandate for information. That being said, there has to be, you did not lead a certain part of a paragraph on page 4, which is the second paragraph on page 4 that is being alluded to here. Well, no, I didn't think it was necessary. Well, now let me turn to the participation of youth, the youth turnout for voting. That represents some 2% of your expenditures. Isn't there a contradiction if you're only spending 2% on that area and yet there is a low voter turnout? Isn't there a conflict here? Well, there are some 3,500 schools throughout the country where we have information sessions. Many of the candidates are invited to make presentations to present their positions to the students in the schools. Well, what is the percentage of your 33 million that you spend in terms of information for 18 to 20-year-olds? Well, it's spent on all voters. But you're saying the problem is that you've got to improve the youth voter turnout. So what percentage of your budget is expended strictly for that purpose? I look at the election in Quebec, where the elections commissioner was very, very pointed as to the need for dealing with this. So my question for you is, what percentage of your budget do you spend on that? I don't have the figures with me, but I can provide you with those figures. Though the money's targeting young people. In all the major campuses in this country, there is an outlet to inform them about their options for signing up to vote, the alternatives, how to vote, and when they should vote.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, witnesses, for being here. I just want to follow up on that questioning, Mr. Mayrand. So, student vote costs less than $800,000. Do you do this work to encourage and to inform the students, the young adults, about their right to vote and the importance of it? Do you do that between elections, or is it only at election time?
No, we do work with schools and teachers across the country between elections.
You do.
For example, we did, in collaboration with Elections Ontario, develop a curriculum on civic education that's distributed in all schools in Ontario. And that's been well received, it's been evaluated, well received by teachers and students alike.
Okay. You talked about the 120,000 approximately voters who would miss out on the opportunity to vote because of the removal of the voting system. Do you have any idea of what makes up that aggregate, whether they're First Nations people, whether they're street people, whether there are veterans among the street people? Do you know who makes up that?
Honestly, we do not, because we don't keep information on electors, other than if they have voted, that's in the poll book, who has vouched, who was voted for. As to what were their particular circumstances, we don't know about that necessarily. What we can tell from what we've looked at, it's often relatives. So it's people living at the same dwelling, and a mother and an adult children that would be vouching for one another. It's often also where seniors live with their children. Children would vouch for their mother or father or other relative. That's the majority of cases, but we don't, again, have exact profile. We know it's an issue on Aboriginal Reserve. We know it's an issue in senior homes. We know it's an issue also for students.
You've made some very good recommendations and acknowledged the issues that are facing the election process in Canada. What involvement did you have at the request of government officials or otherwise in connection with the preparation of this bill?
Well, my involvement has been through the production of various reports since 2010, at least 3 that were produced and tabled in Parliament. Other than that, we've had no involvement in developing the current legislative
So when this
proposals.
bill was prepared, you had done reports in the past.
Yes.
You didn't, nobody came to you and said, look, you know, you've done a lot of work on this. What do you think? Are we hit it in the right way? Are we opening up for more Canadians, or are we going to be suppressing? Did anybody ask you about that?
Never been asked about vouching and the phenomena of vouching and how it was an issue, or what would be the alternatives or anything of that nature. No.
The thing that bothers me about this whole operation is a matter of robocalls. When I think of people being directed to the wrong places to vote, Canadians, I mean, we've got men and women who fought and died, and they're buried in other countries to protect democracy, to protect this right to vote, and now we're suppressing it. Why do we have that? Why do we permit that? Why don't we get rid of that? It's repugnant to our whole system.
Well, there are some provisions in the bill that seeks to deal with events like robocall. I think there are some improvements that are brought into the bill. I pointed out that there's still room for further improvement. There's a few issues that I see with the regime that's being proposed. But again, as I indicated, I think it's, to me, it's in the range of provisions that are good, but could be made better through discussions around
You mentioned some of it.
Dennis?
I've got one more question, Chair.
Well,
There's
no, I'm afraid you don't have time for one more question.